right, so we've got an update from our friends over at the Funny Medicine podcast, and I want to share the clip that they shared on their social media today. So I'm going to do that for us right now, as they have given us the shout out that we so rightly earned. So I'm going to pull that up, and we're just going to go ahead and play that.
Before we jump in, if that's a bet and a deal's a deal, and we lost the bet because, you know, it's unfortunate, but the Marlins lost, the Braves won, the All About Nothing podcast won. So check them out.
I'm just going to stay silent.
Yeah. Barrett didn't really like that you called him Mr.
Oh my God. I call like everyone.
I know. Don't take it personally.
Yeah, don't take it personally.
He's very funny.
Not going to take it personally.
Would he be mad at him, Sir Barrett?
I've not been knighted.
I'm just kidding. No, but a bet is a bet. So
yeah,
shout out to the Braves.
Shout out to them, to the Braves.
I'm still a Miami fan. I'm still a hardcore Marlins fan. All right.
Oh my God.
To clarify things.
We knew. Okay, we knew in our hearts and
Julia.
We both very well much knew.
You know that they were gonna win.
It's okay. I thought the Miami Heat were gonna lose.
The Braves then swept the
yesterday,
Marlins in the series last week.
I know more about the Heat, basketball, all that. When it comes to baseball,
But a bet's a bet. So y'all won. All right, y'all won.
They won. Check their podcast out. They're really good friends of our podcast. They're very supportive. They're great people. And their podcast is hysterical. So give them a look. Check them out. They're available on all streaming platforms like us. And check them out on Instagram and TikTok and all the days.
Working on Barrett's OnlyFans.
So I'm going to get back to you once we start playing, you know, with the Dolphins and the Heat.
With the Heat. I feel more confident in our Heat, you know.
Julia.
I do what? They're a Miami team.
You know, I Barrett just adopt Julie. I guess she just wants to leave Miami, you know? I'm just kidding. I'm just being dramatic. Did you expect anything less?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Of course not.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
I'll just say that that was a bit dramatic, but we appreciate the shout out from the Funny Medicine podcast, and we look forward to some future collaboration, including we're going to get more details on it, but I know that the president's administration, the FDA, and the Justice Department are working on potentially rescheduling marijuana as a lesser of the drugs, and we'll talk about that soon. Probably not today, because
the one question I did have is, what is one of the current lesser of the drugs?
I don't know, Tylenol,
so
Advil,
marijuana and Tylenol just have to come with a warning label after this.
I have to imagine that Tylenol and marijuana are about as bad together. So,
Really?
So episode 203 is coming up. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by GOT Sound Studio. GOT Sound Studio offers a variety of experiences: music, voice, and instrumental recording and production, video, and still photography. GOT Sound Studio has all of your media needs met. Owned and operated by Dominique Stewart, the Neek the Geek, experienced artists as well as up-and-coming will find everything they need to create. Bring your media needs to one of the most talented producers and engineers in the business, Neek the Geek. You can find details by visiting gotsoundstudio.com or calling 803-243-2302. You can also find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.
The All About Nothing podcast
may have content and language
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to another episode of the All About Nothing podcast. I am Barrett Gruber.
I am Zach King.
And this is episode number 203 of the All About Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and share the show, as that's how we get new listeners. Also, if you could, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting our website and clicking on the support link. If you can't do that, please drop us a review, hit the 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. All of that helps drive our show higher in the ratings on all of these podcast platforms. Also, we're on all of the social medias, I think, except for like Truth Social, I guess, of course. I'm on Truth Social, but I'm not one of those 400,000 people that log into it on a monthly basis or daily basis.
That's more like more on media than it is social.
Yeah, but we are on like the Facebook and the TikTok and the Instagram and the Twitter and all of those. So, but there are links on our webpage at theallaboutnothing.com so that you can come and find us there. I do have a couple shout outs before we get started. John Kosas Jr., Broadcast and Media Relations Manager of the Columbia Fireflies. I want to thank him for our Nothing or Firefly update. And just remind everybody, you can get those exclusively by becoming a member of the podcast. Again, support links on the website, theallaboutnothing.com. You get episodes early. There is content that isn't released to the public that is only available to members. Don't ask any of our members about that, though. We'll also do your shout out, birthday shout out for an episode somewhere close to the episode, your birthday. I think we missed Bill Kimler's last year. So happy birthday, Bill. I know it's in August, but this seems like the appropriate time to go ahead and throw that out there.
I'm sure Bill has stopped counting by now.
Yeah,
he's fine.
100%. Also, want to remind everybody that planning has started for the 2024 Soda City Comic Con. We will be there again this year. It's going to be August 24th and 25th at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. And on the bill right now is Peter Cullen, who is the voice of Optimus Prime from the Transformers. We will have more details on everyone that has been signed up to be there as a celebrity. Zach and I are going to get to potentially run a couple panels while we're there and talk to some of these celebrities. We are hoping for Walton Goggins and potentially Raylan Givens if they show up.
Yep.
Because
Walton Goggins would be a dream interview. That would be amazing.
Oh, for sure. And I watch a lot of his interviews. He seems like he's just so much fun. Of course, he's in the new show Fallout that is on Amazon Prime. He is the Ghoul, right? I said that right?
Yep. And there's no writer's strike going on this year because we got to meet and hang out with Michael Biehn for a while. If you don't know Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese from Terminator, he was amazing. I fangirled. Barrett saw it. Everyone saw it.
Yeah.
Freaked out. So
it was great. It was great.
Such a good time. Such a good time. We
will have details as they come up. So make sure that you're subscribed here, as well as you can check out SodaCityComicCon.com. So our guest this week, and there's a very specific reason why we have invited her onto the show. Well, actually, now there's two reasons. But former candidate for South Carolina Treasurer, graduate of Marietta College and Capital University Law School. She is a certified public accountant. And she is also the Alliance Party nominee for South Carolina's State Senate District 15 seat, representing Rock Hill and York County area. Everybody, welcome back to the show, Sarah Work. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks. Yeah, we're glad that you took my text message only a short time before the recording of this episode.
Yeah, you're like Tuesday night. I was like, wait, that wasn't one of the choices I gave you.
Oh no, it was. Oh my gosh.
No, it was Monday night at 8:00. I was like, okay, I guess I'll do Tuesday.
I am the worst. Zach can attest. I am by far the worst.
You made it work.
So do us a favor. Remind us what exactly it is that the Alliance Party stands for as far as its values.
Man, we want citizen leaders who believe in compromise and really just common sense solutions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest, that's like the biggest thing I can say. And we understand that, you had mentioned earlier about your potential run for Congress, or was it the State
House? Yeah, State House.
So, and that, it was your potential competitor was just blowing it out of the water. But the issues really are, should bringing people to the table in order to make common sense solutions, but also to limit people's power, like within basically 12 years. Like there are studies that say after the 13th year, the moral compass starts to erode. So the Alliance Party requires that when you sign up with them, you sign a form that says, if I'm elected to office, I will not hold this office for more than 12 years.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, I think I am of the mindset that there is a good there is a benefit to tenures. as far as, but there's also a benefit, because I look at Joe Biden and I say, yeah, he's 82 years old. He's been in office for more than 5 decades, but there is a statesman quality and an experience quality that comes with President Biden that I think that we would miss out on if we had some sort of a required stop, or that there were term limits. But the presidency has a term limit. In fact, it's one of the only offices federally that has a term limit. Our governorships have term limits. So there is, I think that there is a benefit to allowing, despite how popular a candidate might be. But yeah, I absolutely recognize that there is the potential that people, their moral compass erodes.
Well, I mean, you can still accomplish that statesman-like aspect of knowing how government works. It's just that you can't maintain one position for longer than 12 years.
Sure.
So,
no,
I mean, you could do House for 12, you could do Senate for 12, and then you can run for president, or you can run for governor. It's not limited to one office, or, to all offices. It's limited to the one.
I applaud it.
Yeah. Well, and I, for one, think that once you reach like 65, 70, you're not salting that thing up anymore. You're kind of, we got what you're about. It's not going to get any better.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I think we got enough Joe Biden as well, too.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we can take.
So what inspired you this go around to run for state senate under the Alliance Party?
Well, so they redistricted, and after the census because the reason I ran last time was for the census. Sorry, I have a
You're
kid.
good. We included in the show just because, it's fun.
So anyway, teenagers. So they redistricted, and they basically moved me out of District 14 into District 15 by like 2 streets.
Oh, wow. Real close.
I'm more in my neighborhood now, where before I was on like the cusp of a different district.
Yeah.
That was like a completely different county. Like 90% of the district was a completely separate county. Now I'm in an area that I can actually, like, my actual neighbor is in my district now. So,
nice.
Which is why I decided to run. Honestly, I didn't decide until the last day of filing, when I saw that there was no other option than the incumbent on the ballot. And I was like, I want an option. So I went and registered the last day of filing.
Well, kudos for doing it, because ultimately I think we need more candidates running. I'm not particular, if it doesn't affect me, as to what they're. Well, I take that back. I'd rather have more. I'd rather have more liberals and progressives running for candidacy than some of the people that currently represent a lot of the places. But we really appreciate the fact that you're running, because
absolutely,
we feel more comfortable with you as the secretary, or the senator from District 15, than whoever the other guy is. I don't know.
I don't care. We don't need to advertise for him. So
perfectly fine with me.
The opposition.
Yeah, the other guy.
So, if and when you are elected, how do you intend to foster bipartisan cooperation and work across the party lines to achieve like your legislative goals?
Well, I think so much of it is currently in office, in politics. It's like the people yelling the loudest are the ones getting heard. And those who just are like the standard moderate kind of like easy as you go person is not going to be up in arms about a specific issue, like you had said, the Moms with Liberty people or whatever. It's like they're just blowing the whole, like, because of all this issue that's going on in Lexington School District or whatever. My 13-year-old came home with a permission slip this year for the middle school library. She had to have me sign a permission slip for her to use the library at school, saying that she didn't have any restrictions on the books that she was allowed to check out.
Oh, wow. I couldn't imagine that.
It's like the school has to like CYA to make sure that I'm not going to come back and complain about my child getting a young adult novel out of the school library.
Yeah, watch out! Your daughter can read Hatchet if she goes past the beads to the back of the library. Right. Yeah, it's like, my gosh.
Yeah. So, and the other issue, like she came home from the book fair, and she's like, "Mom, literally, this is a middle school book fair, and they're selling board books at the middle school book fair, like baby books."
Yeah, I was your
say,
ABCs and stuff. Oh my gosh,
board books are the typical like Dr. Seuss, and then your very simple one sentence per page.
Yeah.
What
your reading level, Barrett? Those books that you keep.
I have 9-year-olds. Thank you, sir.
I think that we need to think about the person that's not complaining. Everyone seems to be like running to the fire when there isn't a fire. Y'all are just blowing smoke, and it's just it's really disappointing that everyone immediately jumps to conclusions or assumptions about how things are being handled. And I think that if we bring cooler heads to office and kind of people who like, well, what is the context of this? Is someone reading this out of context? And or like, what are the other opinions? Like, do a straw poll of the district, whatever it may be, to understand what is really the issue. Like, are people really upset about this, about the books, or are they upset because they're not, their children what's the issue? Yeah. So, I mean, kids can definitely get worse information on their phones.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the amount of porn sites and stuff that are easily accessible to children is more concerning to me than whether or not my child is reading the Divergent series or whatever. So
the people who are often the loudest are not even right. They're making a problem out of nothing and then solving that nothing burger of a problem. And like, just being loud doesn't make you right. You're shining the light on yourself. You're making a point out of something. I cannot fathom what books are in that library that you need a permission slip. If you said you needed it to use a computer, maybe I could see that one. Be like, hey, they need to get on whatever. A book? A book?
Yeah.
What's the worst you're going to find? Like an anatomy book? You said Divergent series.
Right.
I mean, it's and when they go home, their parents popping on Terminator 2 for them. Like, what else? Is the same standard held everywhere else in their life?
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. It's very crazy.
I want to go back to the permission slip to use the computer. What is the Amish population attending public school in York County? Just purely out of curiosity.
I have
Amish.
no idea. Yeah, I was like,
permission to use the
computer. They all have
computer?
an iPad, so they don't need a permission slip to use a computer because they're given an iPad. Like every student in York County, or at least in Clover School District, has an iPad.
Did y'all not have to sign in when back in the day with the computer lab? You had to sign in that you were using the computer, and if anything happened, they knew who was on the computer last, and they would get to it. So a permission slip, Barrett. We're talking about books here. If a permission slip was signed for the computer, then I'd be like, maybe in some realm I could understand it, but not for a book.
I'm not going to identify Sarah's age because I'm concerned as to how close or how far away it is. But I will just say there's a possibility that when Sarah and I went to school, our computers were hooked up to individual dot matrix printers, and there was no sign in. You loaded it with a floppy disk, and then it came on to whatever that floppy disk said it was supposed to come on to.
I had an Apple II in some of my computer labs. Okay,
right. So fair enough.
Yeah, I had to rip my printer paper off as well.
Okay, fair enough. So on the subject of education, what specific initiatives do you propose to improve the state's education system? Because currently we're 48th in the state, and that's
in states. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and that's down from like 46 a few years ago. And we, over the course of the last 2-3 decades, we've just continued to see South Carolina drop further and further down, while a certain party has been in charge the whole time. And
Yeah, I mean, it's the hard thing is that, everyone thinks that the education voucher program is going to be the silver bullet that changes it for everyone. And I have I was talking to, we were standing at the dance studio, with my 8-year-old, and some of the parents were complaining about all the standardized tests they have to take. They take a map test 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year, to map where they are in their curriculum learning. They take state testing, and they take, if they're going to be in gifted and talented at second grade, they take the gifted and talented test. They do all these South Carolina Ready testing. It's a lot of testing.
Yeah.
And I had a political science teacher in college who said, you can't tell if someone is starving by weighing them.
Yeah.
You really have to diagnose what is happening. There was one of the women that is an Alliance Party candidate. Her name is Jackie Todd, and she's running for a state house seat. And she says that, you don't ever stop learning. And, so many people get out of school and they're like, oh, I'm done, no more. I don't have to worry about anything else. But the world is constantly changing. And they say that today is the slowest day for change. Tomorrow is the rate of change is just exponential from here on out.
Yeah.
So if we don't change the mindset of our population, and I'm not talking just children, I'm talking adults too, to encourage basically lifelong learning, I think that that's part of where we need to start, because if parents are learning, then they encourage their children to learn as well.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
If parents stop learning, it's like they don't see the value of it for their children.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the calculus, is to really bring learning to the family and not just to the students.
One of the best ways to stop learning in its tracks is to take away books from libraries.
Yeah, and the biggest thing too is when a kid or anyone, even adults, has a question and you refuse to answer it or let them answer it, or like have somebody answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that big fear in a lot of people is to ask a question and feel dumb about it. But I think the biggest part of learning and expanding your intelligence, outside of even just being book smart, is to question your worldview, learn other people's points of view, and move forward there. And that I think that's even after school, that's where I had to learn that myself after school.
Yep.
To like critically think and ask the questions, and no one's going to call you dumb. And if they do, then those people who aren't any better than you are at the moment in their whole knowledge base of things.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what Zach's talking about,
point.
because I was invited into Mensa at like 12. So
yeah. I was invited into Mensa when I was 18 and I did not complete the test. And that was not very smart at like 18. I promise you that.
Truth be told, it wasn't Mensa with an E, it was Mensa with an I. So
it had a Z in it.
That's right. Sarah, being a CPA and accountant, as part of your profession, obviously economy, economics, that sort of thing, it kind of falls in line with some of what you do every day. What strategies do you have to promote job creation and stimulate economics in South Carolina?
I mean, the right now, with the current situation with battery recycling centers that are going in, and basically I feel like South Carolina is becoming the EV of the Michigan of EV almost.
Yeah.
I don't think that and especially because I think that isn't our jobless percentage less than 4% right now.
Yeah.
I think we're doing really well in this department. And I think that part of the issue with education is that in order to attract these businesses, they need a workforce that knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So I think that, and it kind of falls back to that lifelong learning situation that Jackie is really pushing in her campaign. And I agree with her on it. And it's people, if we want to continue to grow as a state, we need to kind of work on the foundational issues, and education is the one that I think really kind of everything else builds on.
Yeah. No, that's great. And
100%.
I agree. So the Alliance Party often emphasizes political reform and anti-corruption measures, which are obviously important to you, and that's why you've aligned yourself with the Alliance Party. What reforms do you support to increase transparency and equality or accountability in government?
Well, I mean, I know that this is probably the hot topic right now in Colombia, but the issue with the Treasurer's Office and the $1.8 billion that has mysteriously reappeared after 10 years.
Hell of a couch fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of disappointing that the treasurer feels like he's being fired upon because there was no communication between the Comptroller General and the Treasurer's Office as to keep track of where the money was, what it was for. And I think that as far as, that's another reason I'm running for state Senate is because I didn't obviously win the Treasurer's Office. But in listening to all the reporting that's going on, the Senate hearings and all that good stuff, I do feel like as a state senator, I could encourage the Comptroller General and the Treasurer's Office to be more communicative between each other and kind of work on the oversight panels that really make sure that those functions of government are working it correctly. So I think that's, for me personally, I understand accounting systems. I understand, what the function of a bank is and what the function of the Comptroller General is.
Right.
But I mean, it's just like anyone else who does this. I mean, I do it. People pay me to do this for them.
Yeah.
But, you keep a record of what you spend, or you have a pretty good idea of what you spend so that when it comes through the bank, you can be like, yeah, that all looks good. And so you're keeping two sets of records, right? And the same thing happens at the state, but, they're not communicating to one another to the point where they can double check each other's numbers and things start to get fuzzy. So,
yeah.
And when you're dealing with other people's money, that's not kosher.
Well,
so, that's
and you're brave to try and give the Comptroller General's office and then the Treasurer's office some credit in the fact that maybe it was a miscommunication.
Right.
We're going to do a deep dive into Curtis Loftis here in just a minute that I'm hoping you will enjoy.
I would have filled my taxes out for the state a lot different knowing how bad a bookkeeping operation that our financial institution is doing at the moment. I mean, what do you?
Because he doesn't understand accounting systems. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that some of the people in his office understand accounting systems, but I don't. I think that they are so afraid of even working within the office itself that they're not communicating with each other.
Yeah.
So, I think that for me, I feel that that's the biggest issue is that the state treasurer just does not understand the accounting software that they're using in order to track these funds, and is trying to like sweep things under the rug a little bit because he's still learning. And
I have a comment about the lowest bidding accounting software that South Carolina went with back in, I guess it was like 2014, 2013, something like that.
Yeah,
that's currently in use.
Mm-hmm.
It's the treasurer that selected that software. So, that's
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that he ultimately the treasurer's office is the one that actually he decides on which one. Of course, then it has to go through legislative process to be approved.
Right.
But he's been the treasurer since 2011. And we'll get into that here in just a second because it's a whole diatribe that I'm going to go through that, I found to be hysterical when I wrote it.
Well, and the fact that the whole state kind of has to just take it.
Yeah.
Just like we lost
$1
billion plus.
There is nothing that makes citizens of a state more uncomfortable than knowing that their treasurer's office doesn't really have a grasp on where the money's coming from and where it's supposed to be going. So before we get into that, Sarah, please, the website that people can make donations or check out information about your candidacy, and because we have listeners all the way over in India and Russia and the Philippines and Malaysia and things like that.
Right. Well, it's still my For Treasure website. I haven't updated it, but the money, like the transactions, will still work, and I'll make sure it gets to the right spot. But it's
perfect.
It's workforsc.org. So workforsc.org.
Perfect. And any sort of fundraising that you're going to be doing here in the near future? Or any events that you're going to be attending?
I need to start getting, because I just 15 days ago I finished tax season, so
yeah.
I feel like I've jumped through a million hoops to get to this point.
Yeah.
So when I said I filed April 1st, I was trying to fit it in between tax return 700 and 701. So
I have a friend who's a CPA here in Lexington, and she took 3 days off after tax season was over, but then you have to get into the extension tax period season, right? And that is draining. So absolutely, everyone check out workforsc.org, where you can check out Sarah's webpage there, check out her candidacy, see where she's at with the issues, and then donate, because ultimately, that's one of the biggest problems I have with the incumbencies, is that amount of money that they have available to them from previous campaigns, things like that. So if this is the second time you've run for state senate, but I'm running Matt Villardobo's campaign, and I've made countless phone calls over the last several nights to donors to encourage them to log on to his website, which is mattv4sc.com, to make donations as well to his campaign. And they don't have to be donations that come specifically from his district. They can come from outside the district, because the idea is to support the candidates that you agree with, or that you find yourself aligned with, so that those candidates they're going to represent their districts, sure, when it comes down to things like infrastructure and education and how the money is making it into their neighborhoods. But at a state level, it's important to have the representatives there that you align yourselves with, even outside of your district. So absolutely. So again, workforsc.org is where you're going to want to find the ability to make donations and check out Sarah's webpage. So and of course, you're on social medias and the things like that, Twitter, I assume, Facebook, all of that.
Well, so X now.
Oh, so
wonderful world of X.
Before we get into Curtis Loftis, I have a weird theory about the Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and I know it's going to sound conspiratorial, but what if Elon Musk, who has made himself sound a little bit supportive of Donald Trump over the course of the last few years, what if he bought Twitter to free Donald Trump's account, so that we would then have access, prior to these trials, of quite literally all of the things that he said on Twitter X, which wasn't available until they opened his account back up?
Well, I really didn't mean to do that right there, but the first building I'm going to open up on Mars is a David Buster's.
So, anyway, conspiracy theory. I'm sure it's not right, but it was just a weird. No, it's wrong. Okay, fair enough. So I before we discuss the we get into the $1.8 billion, I did want to do a deep dive onto Curtis Loftis, and I only researched his Wikipedia page. So from his Wikipedia page,
nothing but the facts. Let's go.
Curtis M. Loftis Jr. Was born September 8th, 1958, where you might ask, well, according to Wikipedia, West Columbia, South Carolina. But let's be honest, this 250-pound bag of bleached white rice could have been born basically in any town in the state, but my locale of West Columbia drew the short straw, and we lost hard. So he was born to, and this wasn't listed in the Wikipedia article, but what I can assume were two loving World War I veterans, because there's no way someone like this with his level of ignorance could have been born from any two parents whose gene pool wasn't shallower than an empty Dixie cup. Curtis married.
What about, I thought you mean World War II.
No, I meant World War I.
Oh, okay.
So Curtis Marianne Loftis Jr. is described as the owner of several central South Carolina businesses and has some let's say, quote, experience or involvement in real estate, which I think is a really weird way of trying to make us think that he's a real estate agent. But that might have to wait for another episode of What the Pie Was That, because I have to imagine there's something shocking or comical there. Curtis Melanie Loftis II started the Saluda Charitable Foundation, a private foundation located in West Columbia, South Carolina. Its purpose is primarily to fund assistance to indigent children by collecting funds, clothing, and equipment, which are donated to affiliate charities in Ukraine to support various projects. Now, as a proud Donald Trump supporter, and referring back to the level of ignorance, I wonder if he knows Ukraine is involved in his charity, because now, according to causeIQ.com, the only personnel at the Saluda Charitable Foundation is Chairman Curtis Margaret Loftis. The foundation received $100,000 in donations in 2022, but had $147,000 in expenses in 2022, including $26,000 in depreciations, $31,000 in grants to government organizations and individuals. I'm going to quote, air quote, individuals, as well as $85,000 in what is only labeled as all other expenses. Also, according to causeIQ.com, Curtis Marie Loftis Plan B receives no compensation for the tireless work that his foundation provides in support of Ukrainian children.
We need to see his laptop.
Yeah. No actual financial information on the value of the amount used to support Ukrainian children, enemy to Russia, but somehow not important enough to support overwhelming in financial and military aid to invasion of a sovereign country by a fascist dictator and former KGB spy. The basic bad guy for 96.2% of all of the patriotic movies from the 1980s. But maybe it's legit. So good for you, Curtis Mabel Loftis. So we're going to jump forward a little bit to the winter of 2010. Curtis Madeline Loftis Part 2 announces his candidacy for treasurer of South Carolina as a Republican. He considers himself to be a conservative reformist. Now, what is a conservative reformist, you ask? Did anybody ask? Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, it might surprise you to know it doesn't mean moderate. In the current political environment we find ourselves in, you might think that this is someone who would attempt to pull extremist end of the party back to center with common sense solutions to the infant cannibal Democrats that some of you might think exists. No, in fact, when it comes to conservative reform candidates, you'll find them screaming for small limit of government while receiving a $92,000 a year salary and using state money to air commercials about the Future Scholar program. But in truth, it's really just state funds to put himself in commercials that air as a public service during a campaign. So I want to share.
He's making $200,000 now.
He's up to $200,000.
Yeah.
Golly, that hurts my heart. So I want to share the Future Scholar, not as an advertisement for Curtis Loftis, because this ad is like 8 years old. But I do want to share it with everybody just so you can get an idea of who Curtis Loftis is. So I'm gonna play this real quick.
Want to reduce your taxes? Start by saving money for their college. Hi, I'm South Carolina State Treasurer Curtis Loftis. Did you know that every dollar you contribute to Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings program, is tax deductible? And your earnings are tax-free on federal and state income taxes. It's a real win-win for you and your children. There's no minimums, so start saving today. The smart and easy way. Visit futurescholar.com.
So I couldn't actually find anywhere else that we had a state treasurer going on advertising commercials of to support, to support or to advertise for state programs that came out perfectly in line with campaigns. So it sounds a little scammy and maybe a little too on the nose. Curtis I messed up. Curtis Megan Loftis has made it clear to everyone that questions. He has made it clear to say, "Mind your own business," is basically how he represents himself in question of what it is that he does. So a year later, Curtis Maxine Loftis, the next, won the 2010 statewide primary against what is recognized as the first time a GOP candidate has ousted a sitting GOP incumbent in a statewide GOP primary. There were no challengers in 2010 general election, so Loftis was assumed into office and has held this office since 2011. His tenure has made headlines in state news. In 2014, former Deputy Executive Director of the South Carolina Budget and Control Board, Samuel Griswold, brought a complaint against Loftis to the State Ethics Commission. The complaint alleged that Loftis did not disclose a personal relationship with an attorney he hired to represent the Treasurer's Office in a securities lawsuit against the Bank of New York Mellon. Now, at the time,
the attorney said, what relationship?
At the time, Michael Montgomery, the attorney in question, served on the board of a nonprofit with Loftis. Montgomery was paid $2 million upon resolution of the lawsuit. And according to the state ethics regulation, elected officials are prohibited from using their office for financial gains for himself, a family member, an individual with whom he is associated, or a business with whom he is associated. So in 2016, the commission announced that it was going to reprimand Loftis for granting the contract to Montgomery. There was no fine imposed.
It was $500.
Oh, there was a fine. It was $500.
It was $500.
Well, I imagine it was probably difficult to pull that out of that $92,000 a year salary.
Yeah, no, it was $500. And he also, the interesting thing about that situation is that the state, which is run by individuals of his own political party, removed him from authority over the state retiree pension fund.
Oh, God.
So he has a person on the board that manages the retirement fund, but the treasurer's office is no longer responsible for managing the state retiree pension fund.
Well, we fast forward to March of this year, where South Carolina's Comptroller General Brian Gaines announced that a bank account had been discovered housing $1.8 billion that had been unaccounted for. So this account was one of several accounts the state has that is used to move money between agencies. And according to WSOC TV, the account has had this $1.8 billion in it since 2016. The account should be zero, as it's considered a flow-through account. It should be noted that $1.8 billion is about 13% of the state's annual budget. So Curtis Marigold Loftis the Lesser came before the South Carolina Senate and gave no answers on the source and intention of this money. The Associated Press states that Curtis Madison Loftis Los Dos answered questions from senators, sometimes yelling at them. He claimed that he hadn't been given the information he requested to try to untangle the mess that started when the state changed accounting systems in the mid-2010s. I couldn't actually find a total number of states that are using the same software, which is, again, the lowest bidder software that South Carolina chose. But as far as to date, no other state has discovered a flow-through account with $1.8 billion in it, at least not hidden away. So Loftis took shrapnel from the Republican-led committee. A senator from Colleton County said, "I submit the treasurer might have trouble with addition." And then apparently another one said, "Mr. Loftis has lost control of state treasury." So question about why I gave Curtis Loftis girl names as his middle names. Well, the article didn't give his last name, and I didn't go researching it any further than that. And honestly, for some of those, I suspect that they aren't all just girl names. I defend that we live in a state that's represented by a state senate or by a senator, a federal senator, Lindsey Graham.
Leslie?
His name,
Lindsey,
his name could be a boy or a girl. I mean,
it's very feminine.
So
it's a feminine.
Well, when you threw Marianne out there, I just listened and I was like, there ain't no way these parents named him Marianne. I was like, someone really loved their grandmother. Like,
I think I had 8 or 9 different names for his middle name in there.
Yeah, I started picking up on it. I was like, yeah,
I tried.
Goofing. It's just old Barrett goof.
I also tried to find a bunch of different ways of saying junior or the second or whatever.
Yeah, I heard that. No, I mean, the guy is, I went to a cryptocurrency, like when I was running for state treasurer, I went to a cryptocurrency kind of symposium in Charleston, and he was the keynote speaker. And
oh boy,
sure,
I'll be right
no
back
problem.
just a second.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I
That's like going up there and you see him come up, you'd have to be like,
Yeah.
oh shit. He learned to drive when like there was a white and black water fountain.
He's
We're
not that
okay.
old.
Well, I was going to mention a list of things that were in. You said he was born in 1958.
So he's 21 years older than me.
Don't say that again. Things that came out in 1958.
Well, I was going to say so this cryptocurrency conference, he was doing a presentation about, because they went, I can't remember what economy is now using cryptocurrency as like their national currency, but it's just throwing things into chaos. Anyway, they were doing a presentation about whether or not the state should incorporate cryptocurrencies as part of their investing budgets and all that kind of stuff. And he was handed a clicker to move the PowerPoint presentation, and he's like, this. He handed it to his assistant because he couldn't figure out how to advance the slides.
Next one, please.
Yes. So I mean, I don't know. Like he called himself King of the Luddites.
Yeah.
And because he couldn't. I mean, it was just a bizarre. Here he is touting cryptocurrency, and he can't figure out how to use the slide advance remote. And I was just like, maybe this is not the right job for you. So,
I know money, digital money, paper money, coins.
$1.8 billion that can't be accounted for. Why does this sound like a made-for-TV movie about government scandals?
It's just, I don't understand. Like, one of the things that they brought up in the Senate committee is that maybe we should have people in these offices with the proper credentials to hold the office. I mean, they changed the rules for the Secretary of Education, right? She had to have a master's degree, and that was part of the hubbub of her election, is that when she was elected, she didn't have the degree, but she got it before she was sworn in. So it was just, I mean, maybe the Comptroller General and maybe the Treasurer's Office should have similar qualifications for the office.
That's not a terrible idea. I think that there should be requirements set for certain political offices that absolutely have responsibilities to money or education or I don't know, commerce.
Oh. Right. I'm down to send the two guys from Office Space just to sit down with everybody and go, so what do you say you do here? And if you can't explain,
I got to go meet with the Bobs.
Right.
Yeah, the Bobs. That's who it was, the Bobs. What do you say you do here?
with no record of deposits into this account from 8 years ago, where do we suspect this money could have come from? I mean, it's obviously money that is owned by the state. This is clearly an account that is owned and operated and maintained by the state and whatever bank. Also, how do you jam $1.8 billion into an account? Because aren't like, doesn't the federal government insure our money up to $100,000 per account? Like,
is
it 200
or 250,000? So, I mean, they're not going to insure like 1.8 billion. So, but the issue, I think, is in hearing what was going on with the testimony in the Senate, it like they were thinking that, it might be the Department of Transportation's money for like roads and bridges. It might be like excess COVID funds that just got like stuck like in transit or whatever. So they're really not sure. They actually had to appropriate additional funds. So not only, are we not sure where this money is or where it should be going, they had to appropriate additional funding to the Treasurer's Office and to the Comptroller General's Office in order to hire forensic accountants in order to wade through it all.
Crazy.
So I mean, not only is it's, all of a sudden it's money, yay, but at the same time it's costing us because nobody could keep track of it to begin with.
I will gladly relieve the state of the burden of this money.
I mean, when what was the last Powerball? Was it like
there was a Powerball over 1 billion recently?
Oh, there was one that was over $1 billion
and
sure.
I know one of the Powerballs maybe a year ago, it got up to like 1.4 billion. But that took what, 30 something weeks to finally build up to that point. And then I think one person in California won it. So they got out of 1.4 billion, I think after taxes, especially living in California, they probably walked away with
900 million,
more like 500 million, because the way the lottery works is if you take the lump sum, then you're basically selling that ticket back to the lottery, and they're buying it for a lower cost plus taxes, and and that's very loosely the rules, but that's essentially how a lot of it works.
I could make 500 mil work.
Easily make 500 mil. And you know what? y'all would never hear from me, and y'all would never know I was 500 millionaire.
Have you guys watched the Dumb Money?
Oh yeah.
That guy
yeah.
He's like off the grid now.
I want someone to challenge me to the same game or the same rules that Brewster's Millions that they had as the have you ever seen Brewster's Millions? So the idea is that this guy receives his uncle passes away and he owns like the Cubs or something. I don't know. He's a huge mogul in Chicago. So Richard Pryor is the guy that receives the money. Well,
okay, I was thinking Richard Pryor, but I was like, he's not talking about the toy.
So essentially what happens is he has to there's an amount of money that he has to actually like burn through in order to actually keep what's left to him in the will. And it's a great movie. It's got John Candy and Richard Pryor, and it's really good. It's basically, I think it's the same guys that did Trading Spaces and or Trading Places and Coming to America, that sort of thing. It's a really good movie. But if I come into a windfall of like $100 million, no one will ever know, because my life will be...
I will search all the Fords of Norway until I find you.
Yeah. I will invest in your search, Zach. So lastly, with
then it's just patronizing.
So with confidence in Loftis as treasurer waning, even among Republicans, how long before Seeloff he steps down and that 1.8 billion just goes missing completely?
That's a good question. You realize, like, when this first came about and the Senate was like started like picking things apart, the treasurer almost went nuclear. He almost dropped like account number. Like, he's like, I'm going to make it all public. You will see that there's nothing to hide here. He almost dropped like account numbers, balance information, like the governor had to call him and talk him off the ledge.
Now, say, boy, you know we're going to give all this away now, yeah?
Because he would. I mean, this would have given hackers the information they needed to get access to all of our state records. I mean, this is like almost like nuclear codes. Like, why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense.
There's a special category of narcissism that Curtis Loftis falls in.
Into the in the effort of making sure that the public knows that I'm here to represent them.
We don't care that much about you, dude. Just leave.
That's ultimately, I think it all comes down to Curtis Loftis. How about you not re-up for the next campaign? That would.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's more people who could do a better job.
One of them sitting right here in front of us.
Absolutely.
So.
Sarah. Yeah, Sarah could do a great job.
Zach was yes, I'm doing that. 1.8 million or billion, and I'll check you next week.
Look, I'll confess, I voted for Sarah in 2022. So, I did my part.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
thanks, guys.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that there will be links in the show notes for everyone to check out your website. So
I need to update.
Yeah,
it.
you definitely need. You have until Saturday before the exclusive content members get access to this episode.
All right,
There's
I'll
some
make
homework
sure,
to be done.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get it done.
So, Sarah, one of the things we started doing since your last appearance is everyone that comes on the show gets to answer our 7 questions.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention, y'all. I've been like,
Well,
out of
it was tax season. It tax.
I know.
You're not the only one who doesn't pay attention.
I think my mother still listens to your show pretty regularly.
Hey,
good.
Good. Hey, your real mom, right?
My real
is it
mom.
Mrs. Clapp? Okay.
Yes,
Hey, Mrs. Clapp. We're really glad that you're listening, and we appreciate all of the time spent listening to some of this nonsense.
She'll like blush on that one, I'm sure.
That's what I want. I want more 60-year-old women to blush. 60, right? No. 60's right. 60's right. Sarah, shut up. All right. So, Sarah, first question of our 7 questions is what was the last thing that you Googled? And if it was our website address, I swear. No, I'm kidding.
No, I think it was probably a tax question. Because actually it was, I know what it was. I had a client who is a counselor, like she's a mental health professional. And she was trying to figure out if she was going to do like these group therapy sessions where you come and like put your feelings on canvas. And she's like, do I need to collect sales taxes? So I was doing research as to like basically looking up the bulletins, would she have to bill this separately? All that kind of stuff.
That's a good answer. Okay. So my next question, and because Mrs. Clapp is listening, what was the one thing that your parents did that embarrassed you the most?
I don't know if this is, should I keep this PG? I mean, my parents are hippies. So if you can imagine, like,
yeah.
No, we're explicit. It's fine.
Apparently Bill's dad was a bit of a hippie too.
Bill Kimmler's dad was.
Yeah, my dad is I think if they had card carrying nudist like memberships, he would be one of those.
I feel like I should just mark that down as what embarrassed you the most. I
don't think, but it wasn't embarrassing. Like everybody knew about it, so it was like George.
Quick, here comes Mr. Clapp. Run!
All right. What is your least favorite candy and why?
Oh, I don't like sticky things. Like, I just like, my husband's a big caramel kind of like Twizzler fan. And I don't like that.
That is good stuff.
Are you okay with Butterfingers?
No, I don't really.
No,
I don't like it getting stuck in my teeth.
Yeah. I'll never. Bill was Butterfingers, and you said sticky. I was like, it probably counts. It's probably the same.
I was just disappointed in Bill's hygiene. The fact that he would relate to that question by stating that he still has a piece of Butterfinger stuck in his mouth from when he was a teenager.
Stuck in his tongue.
That's a shout out to Bill Kimmler, who is running for District 13, South Carolina House seat District 13, because I must have stated over and over that he was running for District 12. That is not correct. He is District 13. All right, Sarah, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, probably teleporting.
Oh, that's cool. Nightcrawler, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nightcrawler, that's a good one.
No, I have 4 children, so this is a common question that we have. And the Lucky Charms box, I don't know if you guys pay attention, but like the Lucky Charm, like each of the charms gives the little leprechaun guy Lucky a different superpower.
I did not know that.
So this is a common question we get at our house.
Our Lucky Charms comes in a bag because Walmart sells it in a very large bag. Because in our house we go through a lot of Lucky Charms.
Gotcha. Yeah, we do too. It's one of the
yeah, absolutely. So, what is your most embarrassing favorite song? What is a song that comes on the radio and your kids are like, "Oh God"?
Probably the one about the girl. Like I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Nice.
Cherry.
No, that's good. That's good.
There you go.
Fun one. And I'm like, I like kiss each of my girls on the forehead, and they're like, "Oh,
Stop, man!"
I'm like, "But I'm kissing my girls." And they're like, "Oh."
In front of friends, everything.
Mom, you're holding on the car rider line. Yeah.
All right. What is one question that you wished that we had asked?
That's a good one. I like that one.
Oh, see, Bill hated it. Bill thinks that this is the worst journey. I have no integrity for asking questions like this. So Bill's obviously not getting a Christmas card this year.
I kind of wish you guys would have thought more, like gone into more of what, like more of the testimony in the State House, like, and they actually brought up the fact that he's been using the education scholarship funds for advertising. So I thought that would have, like, to highlight that, and that's another thing that I want to do if I get into the Senate, is to cut that shit off. So, but that's, I mean, we talked about it, but we really didn't get into any, like, hey, how would you change this? Or what can we do to change this? And
just to acknowledge that it is such a scummy thing by putting himself in commercials for, and basically, you know, and if somebody goes back and rewatches that commercial, just understand that was a public service announcement that the state did not have to pay to air on local channels across the state. That was something that was just given to the treasurer's office as a sort of a nonprofit thing, and yet it worked out to his benefit.
So how it works is that the state college education savings accounts, the treasurer really doesn't even manage that. He pays someone else to manage that, and then they give him a kickback for marketing. So that's kind of like where the, like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of comes in, which just makes it even scuzzier.
It does. God.
I don't know how to react to it, because in one way it's like, how do we let this happen over and over again? And then it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. You know, because if it, you know, now there are people falling in line. There are Republicans, obviously, and Democrats and independents that recognize that this is definitely an issue. But at the same time, like, they didn't see this written on the wall when he had been in office for 4 years prior to it, when all this started.
Well, he campaigns, like, the reason, you know, we were talking about how he overcame his GOP rival in the primary. He campaigned on the fact that this person was taking, you know, basically public dollars to advertise on TV. And he said, I won't do that when I become treasurer. And now you can't find the ads online. That's
I have much slimier means to promote myself. Yes.
So weird. All right. Last of the 7 questions. This one is this one's kind of a thinker. So, what is one question you're glad I didn't ask you, and we can't ask you that question?
You can't ask me that question.
This is a question that you would have liked for us, that you're glad we didn't ask.
Glad we didn't ask.
Like, where did I hide the body?
Or
guys can't ask
how many pull-ups can your husband do in a row?
I don't know. It depends whether or not he strapped 20-pound weights to his ankles or not.
It's worse.
Is your husband Batman? You have to tell us if he's Batman.
He's not as tall as Batman, so maybe Robin. I don't know.
Robin is historically short. He's not a very big guy.
I mean, he's not 6 foot, that's for sure. But he's 6 foot in my mind.
There you go. And we've been in the same room with you. You're not 6 foot either. So
no,
there you go.
5'7".
So Sarah Work, thank you very much for being on the show with us again to discuss all of this, especially your candidacy for South Carolina State District 15. Again, you can check out Sarah's website, which she promises is going to be updated as much as she can get done before this episode drops. But it's work4sc.org. And again, donations definitely open and welcome. So Sarah, thank you very much for being on the show. You can follow her on all the social medias that she's out there on. I'm sure if it's not already on the website, she'll make sure that there's links to those on the website.
Yeah, dudes, I so appreciate you asking me to come out again. It was just it was a pleasure.
No,
Lots of fun,
and you're such a fun to have. You're great to have on. It's great to have the conversations, especially from some of the things that Zac and I potentially don't understand, as far as like, the money end of things. And you've been in South Carolina. You are attuned to what it is that's going on, and I like the fact that you're running for office again. I mentioned it before, but I'm very appreciative of the fact that you're willing to run. That there's so many candidates out there. Not to dog on them, but there's so many candidates out there that run one time, don't potentially win, and then we don't see them again, despite the fact that they are terrific candidates and they would be amazing representatives. And I am going to be working on a number of those individuals to potentially try and mount some campaigns or write-in campaigns, because I still think that that there is a potential that we could see some good change for South Carolina if we have the right people in charge of how the money is spent. So,
well, and just to put a plug in for the Alliance Party, there's no filing fees when you file as an Alliance Party candidate. I know that that's like a big burden for some people to like put up the cash in order to run as a as a Crest or a Colgate candidate. But I don't think people realize that if you run as an Alliance Party candidate, there is no like upfront cash cost to basically enlist yourself as.
That's terrific to know. So again, thank you, Sarah, for being on the show with us. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap us up. That is going to do it for episode number 203. Thank you again, Sarah, for being on with us. Links to past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, social media are all available on our website at theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger by supporting the show monthly? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533. You can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com, or you can join our Discord server. Links are available at theallaboutnothing.com. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. You all stay safe and
please keep your hands to yourself.
The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber, or visit my Linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zac and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimmler on Black, White, and Blue in the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by Blank Canvas Brand. If you own a business, restaurant, or sports team and you're ready to shake things up with that new, unique image, you need to use Blank Canvas Brand. Blank Canvas specializes in brand identity, including logos and graphics for business cards, flyers, banners, and signs. Blank Canvas offers printing services to help with your clothing needs. Look, when it comes to talent and service, there is no one better. For more information, you can search Facebook for Blank Canvas, or you can email blankcanvas@theallaboutnothing.com. That's BLNKCANVS @theallaboutnothing.com. You can find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.